I will be reviewing a documentary film that came out in 2018 that is directed by Morgan Neville, and that stars Fred Rogers in archival footage recordings, and that is about the life and legacy of Fred Rogers and the show he created, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, and that movie is Won't You Be My Neighbor? Okay, so this biographical documentary film has just started, and so far we just listened to the theme song of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, which is what this movie is about. Speaking of which, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood is something that I remember watching during my childhood, along with Thomas the Tank Engine, Sesame Street, Raffi, and Blue's Clues. We are already off to a good start on this. Now we are hearing conversations about how PBS, which made Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood and children's television in general, came to be. We are now seeing black and white archival footage clips of our main real-life protagonist, Fred Rogers himself. That means that his show, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, was first around before I was born. But nonetheless, I will state again that he later became an important figure in my childhood, along with Thomas the Tank Engine, everyone on Sesame Street like Elmo, Raffi, and Steve, the original host of Blue's Clues. We are also seeing pretty creative use of puppetry. That reminds me, I remember enjoying puppetry in various ways possible when I was a young kid. King Friday the 13th was just mentioned. Just so that you know, he was one of the puppet characters on Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. That is still, to me, a funny name for a king. WGBH was just mentioned. For your information, it is the main PBS station for Boston, Massachusetts. And it also created other shows on PBS that I remember watching and liking a lot during my growing up years, such as Arthur, Zoom, Fetch with Rough Ruffman, Postcards from Buster, and Between the Lions. Fred Rogers, aka Mr. Rogers, played by himself in archival footage, is testifying before the U.S. Congress about the importance of federal funding for PBS, the Public Broadcasting Service. What does assassination mean? That is a heavy topic that they are having to handle here. Just so that you know, the assassination that is referenced is the one of Senator Robert F. Kennedy back in June of 1968. And he was the younger brother of John F. Kennedy, the 35th President of the United States. Yo-Yo Ma was a good friend of Mr. Rogers from what we just saw, and he is also good at playing the cello, a stringed instrument that is like a violin, but bigger. Fred Rogers was also good at swimming in a pool just like I am. Speaking of which, there have been times when I enjoyed swimming. Rapper's Delight by the Sugar Hill Gang just played in the background for a moment. That song always gets me in the groove whenever it comes on playing. Whoa! We just saw old footage of the Space Shuttle Challenger disaster. My brother Brian was in kindergarten when this tragedy happened. Mr. Rogers is now engaging in a conversation with a kid in a wheelchair. It just goes to show you that he was a compassionate person towards the disabled, am I right? Look at that! A gorilla named Coco learning human abilities. That's interesting, since humans do have similar facial and body features to gorillas, and gorillas are one of our closest relatives out in the wild as well. Oh, now they are talking about the national tragedy of 9/11. I was 9 years old when that happened, and was lucky enough to also have a dog before the one that I now have, which is Wally, to help me get through it, and his name was Pepper as well. As we get closer to the end of this documentary film, we are hearing talk about the legacy of Fred Rogers, who was such a great man. Overall, Won't You Be My Neighbor is a truly touching biographical tale of Fred Rogers, who was otherwise known as Mr. Rogers. Join me next time when I review Mission Impossible Fallout. I'm Flick James Flick, your one and only movie reviewing secret agent out there.